David possessed a knowledge that was unknown to many. In the 17th chapter of the book, Mere Samuel, there is the description of the clash between the army of Israel and the Philistines, led by their imposing warrior, Goliath. During a trip to the camp to visit his older brothers, David came across Goliath for the first time. The dictionary Webster's New World defines courage as the willingness to face and deal with recognized situations as dangerous, difficult, or painful, instead of avoiding them, demonstrating the absence of fear or bravery. The Philistines positioned themselves for combat near the Elah Valley, located southwest of Jerusalem and near Gath. Saul and his soldiers grouped in the vicinity, separated by the Elah Valley. For 40 days, Goliath, a giant of the Philistine army, challenged the Israelites daily to send a warrior to his height. The appearance of Goliath caused fear in the Israelites, as reported in 1 Samuel 17:11, where Saul and the Israelites were terrified to hear the words of Goliath. To underestimate Goliath would be a mistake, for he was a man of enormous proportions, with a spear whose tip weighed about 15 pounds and an armor of approximately 125 pounds, measuring between 9 and 11 feet in height. Fear was a common reaction among everyone in the camp, including the king. On a visit to the battlefield to bring supplies to his 3 brothers, David witnessed the insults of the giant and the fear imprinted on the faces of the Israeli soldiers. Despite being young and disbelieving, David did not let himself be led by fear, an attitude that was not expected of him, as illustrated in verses 26 to 30 of 1 Samuel 17. Then David said to the men who were around him, "What shall be done by the man who shall kill this Philistine and remove the disgrace of his insults to Israel? For who is this Philistine, uncircumcised, who has mocked and challenged the armies of the living God?" The men said to him that this shall be done by the man who shall kill him. Now Eliab, his older brother, heard what he said to the man, and Eliab's anger burned against David. And he said, "Why did you come here? With whom did you leave these few sheep in the desert? I know your presumption, excess of confidence, and the wickedness of your heart, for you came only to see the battle." But David said, "What did I do now?" It was not only an innocent question. Then David turned away from Eliab and asked the other person the same thing. And the people gave him the same answer as the first time. His brother thought he was just a young man in search of emotion. Even King Saul thought that David was too young to face Goliath. 1 Samuel 17:31 to 33. When the words that David spoke were heard, the men reported them to Saul, and he called them. David said to Saul, "May the spirit of no man perish because of him, Goliath's. Your servant shall come out and fight with this Philistine." Then Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are only a young man, and he has been a warrior since his youth." After a while, Saul agreed to the battle between Goliath and David. Now you would think that after that, David would be respected, but even Goliath, because of the problems, disrespected him. 1 Samuel 17:41 to 43. The Philistine came out and approached David with his shield in front of him. When the Philistine looked around and saw David, he ridiculed him and belittled him because he was only a young man of a healthy and handsome appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog for you to come to me with a shepherd's staff?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. David faced his brother Saul and Goliath that day, and neither of the 3 showed great confidence in him. But why did he continue to advance, ignoring all disrespect at every step, saying, "Some will belittle us for various reasons. For some it may be because of age, whether young or old. Let no one despise his youth, but be an example and establish a standard for the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in moral purity." 1 Timothy 4:12. It is regrettable that some people without intention belittle young people by labeling them as the church of tomorrow. In addition, there are those who believe that once a person reaches a certain age, they are no longer able to contribute to their spiritual community. Some doubt our abilities, but God is not like men. Sometimes we are afraid because we doubt our own abilities. Sometimes we are like the ancient Israelites when they heard the malicious account of the 10 spies on the land of Canaan. There we saw the Nephilim, the children of Anak, a part of the Nephilim, and we were like grasshoppers to our own eyes, and so we were to their eyes. Numbers 13 and 33. The question is why David was not terrified with Goliath while all the army of Israel, including Saul, was so fearful. Reason number 1, because he trusted in the true and living God. Let us read, "Today the Lord will deliver you into my hands." David shows his growing confidence. His final goal was to spread the message that there is a divine presence in Israel that must be recognized by all. The second reason why David had courage was that he relied on past experiences, where God protected him. This was David's answer to Saul when the king doubted him. 1 Samuel 17:34-37. But David said to Saul, "Your servant kept the sheep of your father and came to a lion or a bear and took the lamb of the flock. I went out after him, the sheep, and delivered the lamb from his mouth. And he rose up against me, and I took him by the mane, the sheep, and killed him. Your servant killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, for he defied and challenged the armies of the living God." David said, "The Lord who delivered me from the lion's clasp and the bear's clasp, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Saul was simply telling David that he was a soldier for longer than he was alive. How can you win against him? This shows that Saul considered only the physical aspects of the battle, neglecting the spiritual dimension. This usually follows the pattern of God's preparation. He calls us to be faithful where we are, and then uses our fidelity to accomplish greater things. If David had retreated when he saw the lion or the bear, he would not be prepared to face Goliath, but he was trustworthy at that time, so he will be trustworthy now. David increases in boldness as history advances. First, he said that someone should fight against Goliath for a just cause. Then he said he would fight against Goliath. Now he says he will kill Goliath. David had no idea that he was being taught to face a giant when he was a shepherd fighting lions and bears. We rarely recognize God's purpose in our preparation, but David can be comforted by the fact that the Lord has always provided for him and will continue to do so. David understood that God's past help was a sign of his future help. Saul also knew this. Saul had confidence in God because he was by his side in the past.